Welcome back to the DHS Podcast. I'm your host, Wyatt Richards, alongside my co-host,
Doug McComas.
And today we are joined by Jeff Hephner, a professional actor who grew up in Michigan and lives in the Chelsea area. Some notable projects Jeff has been a part of are Interstellar, Oppenheimer, Chicago Fire, and many more. Thank you so much for coming on.
Of course. I'm so glad to finally get to do this.
Yeah. All right. Just to start off pretty easy, when did you realize you wanted to act, and what was your spark?
How is this an easy question? You said this was going to be easy?
I think
You're
it's
asking me about
easy.
my life's work here. This is
it.
not easy.
Let's hear it.
No, I'm just messing. It's funny. I was 12 years old, and I was at something at a high school, and it was like some sports motivational speaker guy, right? And at the whole time he's going, stay to the end, stay to the end. I'm going to tell you the secret to success, the secret to everything. And I'm 12 or 13, whatever, and I'm like, oh, well, I'm staying. I couldn't have cared less about anything else he had to say.
Yeah.
I wanted to hear this last thing. The last thing was, and I didn't know what it meant at the time. He goes, you become what you think about the most. That's it. He goes, that's the thing. And when it came time to grow up, and that's a relative term here, but that stuck with me. It kept coming back. It's like, what do you think about the most? What do you think about the most? I grew up in a very small town. I grew up in Sand Creek. It's mapped out down 52. Okay. And I wanted to do something that, nobody from Sand Creek does. Mm-hmm. And I just was like, well, what, like you do. You guys are that age, right? You guys want to go do something, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Let's go.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I was a TV junkie. I watched so much TV, movies. You couldn't talk to me at the movies. Like I was pulled in. I was like, this is what I think about the most. And then I was just young enough to be like, oh, well, I could do that. I was watching some TV show and you're like, there's some dumb on there. And you're like, oh, if he can do this, I can do this.
Right.
And it was just that little seed, right, of just that one guy saying a long time ago, you become what you think about the most. And then I believed him. I was a jock like you guys, right? I played basketball up at Ferris State. And I was like, when I was done, I'm like, well, I better figure this out. That's, I got to try. And so I started doing some theater. I went to Florida where I knew no one would know me. And I started doing these, I called it blue hair theater. It'd be like this theater with 50 senior citizens, like Sunday afternoon. And I was the only guy who ever showed up for auditions, so I got a part in every play.
Okay.
You start doing little plays. You start going, okay, this is really fun, because I'd never experienced it. And a movie came to town, a movie called Tigerland, which was this Vietnam movie with Colin Farrell. It was like his first movie. I got a job as the stand-in. The stand-in is the dummy they put there when they're setting up the cameras and the microphones and the lights while the actors are just sitting in their trailers and hanging out. And I'm chatty, as you'll find out in this little podcast. And I would talk to strangers, right? And I would, like Joel Schumacher was the director. He had directed Batman, and like he was a big deal. Yeah. And I would be in his ear all day long, and it was just learning. And I just was very passionate about understanding what this was. And I thought my way in was as an actor, and I just kept following that. I walked up to him at the end of the movie. I said, hey, what do I do now, man? You guys are leaving. I'm not staying in Florida. I don't know anybody. And he's like, go to New York. I was like, okay. It was New York or L.A. And the guy standing next to him said, I'm going to be gone for 9 months. Why don't you go crash at my place? 3 days later, I'd never been in New York City. I was in New York City. Wow. Had no idea which way was up. But it was just this one step in front of another, all being driven by that one thing I thought about the most, right? And that's the thing I wanted to do. And then you just figure it out, right? You guys are gonna bump into all these walls when you leave Dexter, and you're gonna be like, what am I supposed to be doing? This makes no sense. But if you've got this little reason in the back of your mind, you'll knock down those walls. You'll walk through those doorways. You'll open those windows. You'll crawl over the walls. You'll just figure it out. And there was no artistic need. Like I didn't need to present. It was just like, I'm so moved by film and television, especially the format of television, that I was like, I want to be a part of that. And I just let that drive me. Over. It still does, right? It's just like I've been at it for a long time. And it's, you get to a point where I was talking to another group of kids, and you're just like, well, you might want to figure out exactly how far you want to take this, right? Like if you're going to do something, you're like, once you do it, you're like, well, then what? And I never thought that part through. But it was just that. It was just literally taking those steps and going, well, that's what I think about. And I still do, right? I'll still, for me, working is watching TV, right? It's like, so I'll still watch old TV. I'll watch new TV. I'm watching this thing right now called Twisted Metal. Have you guys seen this yet?
Never heard of it.
On Peacock?
Never heard of it.
I haven't. What's it about?
It's like a video game from PlayStation, right? It's a post-apocalyptic. The world's come to an end. All these cities are walled off. Nobody's, connected. But there's these dudes who drive like supplies back and forth between them, and it's insane, over the top explosions, just utter ridiculousness and character. You guys should check it out. It's good. It's a great way to spend a day.
So as a high schooler, you never did like drama, or like you weren't in theater in high school?
No, not at all. Sand Creek is, like I said, it's a small place, and there wasn't much of that provided. I was not brave enough. It was when I was first studying to being acting in New York, like really studying it, like trying to figure out what the heck this all meant. I heard somebody say like, well, takes a lot of courage. You need to be so courageous, as in this theater class. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? I'm not, that place ain't on fire. I'm not, it's like, where's the courage? And then you get up there and you're like, oh yeah. And so it takes this level of courage, and not bravery. Bravery comes with a level of just not thinking, right? So courage is like being terrified, doing it anyway.
Right.
And then you start to go like, oh, there's more to this. And I didn't have that courage at Sand Creek. I didn't have the opportunities, and I didn't have that reason. I was like, well, when you get out there, you get out of the little bubble, for you guys, what is Dexter? You're going to be like, oh, you're going to need a reason, right? Mm-hmm. Everything you do has to come with a reason. Otherwise, you just kind of bounce off walls.
So walk us through how you prepare for a role, and like where do you even start with that?
It's different every single time. It's funny because I've had the good fortune of doing all kinds of stuff, right? So you mentioned like Interstellar and Oppenheimer. I have little parts in those, right? Just it's one scene, and it's with Chris Nolan, and Odyssey's out right now. It's like it's wildly intimidating, and he won't give you the script, so you don't get anything. Really? So there's no preparing for my parts. Like obviously Robert Downey Jr. and Cillian Murphy, those guys clearly are deep into the script. But for a guy like me, I don't get it because he doesn't want any of it leaked. He doesn't want any of it out there, and he also wants this purity of like the day-to-day authenticity that you would just go for it, right? And he hires people who've been around long enough that like, if you gave me this and in 5 minutes I could act this, right? It's so that comes with time and experience and just like going for it, right? Being comfortable. Some roles you prepare. So you'll get, I did this action show called Agent X with Sharon Stone. Sharon Stone was the vice president of the United States, and I was her secret weapon. So that was a lot of fighting. So I spent 3 months, just training with these guys who were proficient in it's called Wing Chun. And I would fight with them all day long. It was the absolute dream. But the acting portion of it was born from that. So if I had the confidence to take a beating and move like a fighter and feel like a fighter and essentially feel like a stunt guy, then the character can be informed from there. Right? Because the guy's supposed to be this action hero, and he's running around as a secret weapon. And so I took 3 months of just getting beat up by a bunch of dudes, and then you're like, well, I can do any of this. And then the words just kind of become this truthful moment when you're there. It all becomes informed by this one core. And the core for that was like, I got to be able to fight. I got to be able to get my butt kicked and get up and keep going. Right. A show like Chicago Fire, it's like, those are network shows. They throw like some thick drama at you. So you've just got to lean into that, right? Like Clark was this, I don't know, he had demons, right? So he was dark and kind of quiet. And so it's almost easier. You're just like, well, I just got to be quiet. But you have to just, you set your mind in thinking slowly about why someone would do something. So I was doing a movie early on, and the director was getting so mad at because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. But like I literally had to stop and look at a road sign and like jog by. And I couldn't stop for the camera because you actually have to stop so the camera can pull focus, see you, see that you're seeing something important, and then move on. I didn't know what any of that meant. So this guy's losing his pulling his hair, he's losing his mind. He goes, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "I don't know." He goes, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I don't know." He goes, "That's the problem." And I was like, "Oh." he's like, you need to know why you're walking up to the sign. So somewhere in the script, it was informed why you need to see this and why that clicks with you. So I was going to see, this sweet old lady who was going to give me some information. And then you need to know once you see why you're here, the reason you go to the next spot. Why am I coming in and why am I leaving? And that can inform every scene. So as long as you're doing your preparation of like why. So if the scene today is I'm going to come and do a podcast with the two coolest guys at Dexter High School. So the preparation would be like, well, why am I walking into this room, right? So I want to be a part of this. I want to share my experiences. And so what are the reasons? Well, like maybe that would be fun for someone to hear. Maybe someone would be interested. Maybe it'll answer a question for them. And in the most dramatic sense, you're like, maybe someone will watch this podcast and all of a sudden just go chase their dreams. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so in film especially, and in theater even more so, you want that most dramatic why. Like, why am I doing this? Like, it's always like when you see a person in a movie going like this and they look up, that is everybody's look to God, right? And so we know that's dramatic. You don't look up unless it's a comedy. You go, is that a bird, right? You're like, You're looking up like, God help me.
Yeah.
And so we're finding these dramatic whys and these reasons to push you forward. And so the preparation then for roles becomes pretty easy unless you're playing like a real life person, which that's a whole nother thing. And then that's complicated. That takes a very specific type of mimic. So there's some really great actors who are just mimics, right? Yeah. And like Jamie, I'm going to forget his name. He played the blind guy, Ray Charles.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That guy's a straight mimic. He's a phenomenal actor, phenomenal performer, but a mimic as well. So that's a different thing. So when you're preparing for a role, you're going to do it how I would do it. So like if you were playing me in the movie, you wouldn't try to copy everything I do. You would try to have an essence of, well, what was he like? He's chatty, he's loud. And then so you would do your version of it. And that would serve the story as best as you could at the moment. And so a lot of times when you're preparing for something, you just want to make yourself available to do that. And if you can do that, especially in film and television where we're cutting it up and there's cameras moving around and there's a lot of time in between, you have to hold on to these little core ideas because you could shoot the first part of the scene 1 week and a month later you come back to shoot the second half.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like the walk down the hall,
right.
And so it's really broken up. So you have to hold on to these really core reasons and these whys.
And I know you said in Interstellar you would like more minor roles where you didn't get the script, but in a show like Chicago Fire where you were a more reoccurring character, how would you did you have a strategy for like memorizing lines?
I'm a rehearser. Some people you'll see people who look at it and got it. I have to say it over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm working on something now and I was doing the lines for it and I'll walk around and just say it. Sometimes I'll put it into my phone. I'll record it and then bang it back into my head, for pure memorization. But what happens when you get that why and those reasons, those things, if it's good writing or even better than average writing, it'll just be there. It just kind of sticks, So like if you're giving a presentation in class and there's something on the wall over there about Madoff, right? You'll do your research and then it'll be so ingrained in you that whole story of the collapse and the financial, hullabaloo that he pulled off. That'll just come out. The words attach themselves to things. It's like the words become magic after a while. And you guys know this. You're doing a podcast, and there's an ethereal quality to them that when you attach them to the truth, they're easy. And so if you convince yourself what you're saying is the truth, and this is where some people I think get mixed up as actors. Some of it becomes truthful, and that you can get lost in. And so you got to create this little separation of, okay, I'm running around as a firefighter. I'm not a firefighter, in real life. Right. Because that same dude came back a season later as a doctor on the other show. It's like, so you've got to be careful. You can believe it in the moment and make it feel very truthful because it's attached to these certain reasons. But and then those words come with it, right? Like it'll just flow. I play a lot of politicians. I give speeches for politics, right? I've given speeches where I truly don't really know what the heck I'm saying. You know what I mean? But I said it with some feeling. You know what I mean? It's like, because it's it's trying to give this complex, idea in a very small amount of time. And so sometimes in real life you would say it so much different. but you do it to make it sound beautiful, right? And
Right.
make people to evoke an emotion. And so sometimes you just gotta buy into that whole like, okay, this is gonna be flowers and buttercups, and just sell it.
Right. Okay.
So
So
very
what's,
serious, Doug. I like the side of you.
thank you. What's the most memorable or most fun role you've played, and why?
I'm an optimist. I dig so many of them. I mean, Chicago Fire was like summer camp. I mean, we were just dirty and like in real fires, and half the people there were real firefighters. And then you go outside and people think you're like a firefighter, so they think you're a bit of a hero. You know, it's like, it was just like, it was a ridiculous amount of fun. It was just really, really fun. But then like the Agent X, I got to play an action star, right? And the guy who wrote it was the same guy who wrote The Bourne Identity, right? So he understood that stuff. But then I've been a game show host for the last couple of years on the Game Show Network, and it's literally just me screwing around with really nervous game show contestants.
Right, yeah.
And it's so fun. I wake up every time I get to do any of these things, and I'm like, man, that's what I thought about when I was 12, 13, 14 years old. I was like, this is it. And so they all have their own little spot. Even when I play these awful characters, like I was doing this Netflix series and I was a monster, and you're like, oh, that was fun.
Right.
I mean, but when you look at the context of the show, you're like, oh, this is a terrible human being.
Right.
So there's so many that I guess I've done over 60 or 70 different shows and movies now, and that's not even the stuff you do that never gets seen. Like I did probably 18 student films when I lived in New York. So when kids graduate from like NYU and City College in New York, they got to make their thesis film, which is like a 5-minute short. And I was in dozens of those things, and they were a blast. I didn't even know what the heck we were doing. I did one with this Japanese crew. I didn't know a word they said for 2 weeks. Not a single word. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
They're like, okay, yeah, and I would do the thing, and I was like, it was a silent film, so I didn't have to say anything.
Oh, really?
But it was so much fun because there's this whole and you guys get a sense of it when you're doing this. You're creating something, right? You're creating a little moment, and you're capturing a piece of time, and you're sharing these stories. And that's all we're supposed to be doing, right? We're supposed to create something. And then when I get to do that, they all become incredibly memorable. And then, I'm just grateful I get to do it.
Right.
All right. Who is the most famous person in your cell phone, and can you FaceTime them live?
No. The most famous, it's funny who will give you their number. It's really weird. And I always put in a fake name just in case somebody steals my phone.
Okay.
But there's some in there. Like, I've had the good fortune to work and hang out with some ridiculously, well-known to us people. And they're sweet. But I never call them. You know what I mean? I always get mad. And then sometimes if they do something really cool, I'll shoot a text, but so is everybody else in there, Yeah. And like the most famous person on my phone right now is probably a woman, and she's not answering that thing without being all done. You know what I mean? On a FaceTime. But it's funny because a lot of people in Hollywood, and I've separated myself by living here. But when I'm over there and I'm with my friends over there, they live in this world that only feels safe when they're with other people that are, especially like my friends that are like well known. They're really only comfortable around people they've known for a long time or people who are well known. So it's funny when you watch two really famous people start chopping it up because they only feel comfortable talking to each other. You know what I mean? Because they're the only ones who get it.
Okay.
It's a bizarre because a lot of them realize that they're just playing. They got lucky. You know what I mean? They just got lucky. They went for it. It worked. And people want to hold them up on this pedestal and put them in this position of importance that a lot of them, the good ones that I know, are like, that's a bunch of garbage.
Cool. What would you tell a high schooler or maybe even just like a younger guy who's wanting to pursue acting?
Why not a girl?
I guess it could be a girl.
Doug, my goodness. It's 2026. What I would tell them is kind of what I've already touched on, right? You're put here to create. Acting is a great evolution of that, right? It is a great expression of creativity because you write some words down, I get to say them, people get to digest them. I think you got to, again, I'll go back to the why and the reason. Like, you better know why Like, why do you want to do it? Because you're going to fail 99% of the time, and people are going to say you look stupid or look old or look fat or like, you're going to have a why that you want to participate in this circus. One of the coolest things about being on a movie set, you got 250 people, and you're doing a big outdoor scene with animals and kids and all this wildness, and it all comes to one little focal point on the camera. So all the work of all these people has to come, and then when they say action, there's that moment, and it all has to work. And that's addictive, right? Like, that part of it is why we all keep going back. But you have to have that why. So if you're like, I want to be famous, beat it. You're like, that's going to end really poorly. Or if you're like, I want to be rich, good luck. I mean, it's hard, because it's a feast or famine. Some years are fantastic. Some years you're like, did they forget my number? You know what I mean? And so, like, I would say, have that why, have a reason, have a belief, and be really delusional. Like, just go, well, yeah, there was a kid at Dexter High School. It's like, I think I could be in the movies. Do it, but be just delusional about it. Because 99% of people are like, that's silly. Like everybody in Sand Creek, when they, I didn't even tell them because I just left, right? I'm just like, I'm not going to go to Hollywood. I just took off. Because if I'd have told all my buddies, and I was golfing with one the other day, they still pick on me. They're like, they think it's goofy. And so you don't want to necessarily share that. Like, if you've got something deep inside you got to do, go do it. If it's being an actor, being a writer, being a director, a producer, or all of those, Taylor Sheridan, you've got to have a really strong reason why.
What's one piece of advice you got early on that really helped you along the way?
Besides that director yelling at me, literally, this guy was like 6'4". He's a big dude. He had a giant head, and he had lots of hair. And I remember him literally pulling his hair out. Wow. Like he was like so confused on how dumb I was. It was like the look on his face. I was like, oh, I have disappointed this man so deeply. So I mean, that advice was fantastic. But there's so many brilliant people. So I had the good fortune when I worked on Oppenheimer. My couple of days was with Robert Downey Jr. And he's had this very public rise and fall and rise as a person. And he is very famously sober. And he's got a lot of instincts as a mentor and as a father figure. And we were just talking. You know what I mean? He's in martial arts, and I was telling him we had some connections through some things, and we're just jawing. And he's like, do you still want to go do this? You know what I mean? I'm here, getting yelled at by Christopher Nolan because I couldn't pronounce somebody's name, right? It's like, and I was like, oh, I'm sorry. He's like, does that bother you? And I'm like, no, it doesn't. He's like, then you're on. You're still on it, right? He goes, if you ever wake up and you're not on it, go do something else. He goes, in my darkest day, I'm on it, right? I still wanted that. I still had that thing that I was thinking about the most. And this is him talking. And that was so reassuring to me, because when you get a couple years in and you're like, well, what am I doing? Or if you have a bad moment or a bad day, and you're just like, well, I still, that's what I think about. And to have that reassurance from a guy like him, who's still doing it obviously at that level, was a pretty special moment, because it really resonated with me.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. Like, to get it, like, advice from like someone who's been doing it.
I mean, it's freaking Iron Man.
Yeah, it's Iron Man, right?
Dude,
there.
He's the coolest. Like, he's so energetically like, blah, blah, blah. Like, he's just a goofball.
He's probably just really cool.
I came home and I wouldn't stop talking about him, and my wife was like, "Do we need to talk? You've not said anything about anything other than this man for 3 days." But he shares this zest and this enthusiasm, and you see it coming out of him. And so, like, if you don't have that, then you're not in the right spot. But if you still have glimmers of that, and this man who's been through it all, and go ahead and Google it, that man has been through some things, coming out the way he has. You're like, well, then that means if I can tune into that, then I'm good, right? And you find your little tuning forks all over the place. You watch people. When you find that thing that you're supposed to do, right, you're going to find tuning forks all around you. There's going to be people who help you dial it in the whole way if you're paying attention. And I'm always looking. And I'll take that, even if you didn't even mean to give me advice. You know what I mean? I'm like,
Right.
well, that's advice. No, I'm writing that down because that's a man who's done it, and you listen to the people who've done it, right? You take cues from and if somebody's doing something, never take advice from someone who isn't living a life that you want. You know what I mean? So like you got guys at you guys are athletes. You'll have guys leaning on the fence going, why didn't he catch the ball or throw the ball or whatever the thing is, you know,
of course.
And like, dude, you're leaning on the fence over here. I'm in the arena. Like, you stay there, I'll be here. And don't take advice from those people ever. But the ones that are in there and that are doing it and have done it and have that thing still, listen. Everything they got to say, there's a nugget in there.
So like with Christopher Nolan being like as well known as he is,
Who?
is Christopher Nolan?
Oh yeah.
Is there like a big difference between like working with him versus another actor that's like night and day?
It's absolutely night and day. When you see the ones that are different, you're like, that's just different, right? So like on Oppenheimer, it was black and white. The section I was doing, and they were using an IMAX camera for the first time, and the way they were moving it, literally in 6 and 7 inches increments, and resetting the tone of the room. And nobody got to leave. We're in this huge theater in Pasadena, California, and we're in wool costumes, and they would literally come and shave me between takes because it would take so long to move this camera and reset it. There'd be a little bit of extra. Like whatever.
No way.
Yeah, I felt very manly. I'm like, but literally, some dude would come up like this. But it was so detailed, and it was so. I remember in Interstellar, I walked up to him and I was just like, "Hey, dude, what do you think? What are we gonna do?" You know, you got Matthew McConaughey over here. I'm like, "We're doing it, fellas," and he's like, "I don't know. What do you want to do?" Wow. I'm like, "Well, you're Christopher Nolan." I don't know, but he was. There was just this tone of confidence. You're like, "Okay, I'm gonna do all I can to make sure he goes, yep, we got it." And it's just different. I did a series with Benedict Cumberbatch, and that dude is just different. Like there are certain, and I'm perfectly comfortable going like, oh, I'll never be that type of actor, right? I'm a very serviceable actor. I'm good at it. I like doing it. That dude's the real thing. Like he could play a plant. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we need a palm tree. Call Cumberbatch. You know what I mean? It's like there are guys like that and girls like that, and you're just like, oh, they're completely different. I did this cheerleading show. You guys are too young. It was called Hellcats, right? It's ridiculous. It was awesome, actually. I was the football coach, but it was about cheerleaders. There's a girl on there. Her name was Ashley Tisdale, and she was known for like the High School Musical movies, all this stuff, Disney. Okay. But she got this little label that she was this little Disney singer pop girl, right? She was the smartest, funniest, and most talented person. We would do table reads before every episode where you just read them out loud. And you would just look at her and go, she's doing something completely different than everybody else. And most of the world will probably never know how good she really is, right? It's just not even fair. She was that insanely talented that it just stuck out. The rest of us felt like, oh, well, we're not that good. And you don't even know how to label it because it's easy for me to say, oh, you need your why and your reasons, and there's some technical basics. But then there are people who are just lit up from the inside in a different way. And those are very special people. And Chris Nolan obviously is one of them. There's a reason all of his movies turn into these iconic films. He loves movies. He, like if you look at his thesis film when he was making like his first short, Google this. It's bizarre. Right? But there's the amount of skill that's involved. I don't know how old he was, probably 20 years old. You look at this and you're like, oh, he's just different. Like that film is different than anything else out there. So they're out. There's unicorns, there really are.
All right. I think that's all we have time for.
Yeah.
That's it?
Yep.
Yeah. So just want to shout out Mr. Dubé, our advisor. Thank you for him letting us use his room.
Yep.
And follow us on Instagram at dhs.pod. Subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one.
See ya.